Merry Christmas, everyone. Wait, Christmas is over? Well, this is awkward. Why would I review a Christmas movie after Christmas is over? The answer? I don't know, but I'm doing it anyway. Now, on to the review. So chances are that you've never heard of this movie. This was made by Sony, but it was also one of the first fully computer-generated animated movies by Aardman. Now, if you're an animation fan, that might be a familiar name. They've made Wallace and Gromit, Shaun the Sheep, and Chicken Run, but those were stop motion movies. Now, the appeal of their movies and shorts is that, while none of them were laugh out loud hilarious, they have this weird, unique charm to them that makes you glad you saw them at any age. They have a very content, mellow tone that makes them easy to like without trying to do anything that important or be anything that important. And I do kind of appreciate when something does that. So hearing that Aardman would do this movie with Sony got me a little curious because, while I don't think it had the same people who worked on those projects, I felt like I think it might have had a similar charm. Watching this movie, though, made me realize that it was its own thing. I can't even say it has a similar comedy style because the humor is pretty different than something like Wallace and Gromit. This has some of the fastest comedy I've ever seen in an animated film. The opening scene with the elves alone should set the tone for what you're about to see. It's highly likely that you won't be able to see or hear every single joke on your first viewing. Even if you don't laugh at a joke, you can still see everything going on to the point where the off chance of a joke not working doesn't even matter because it just goes right to the next one. The creativity of how this world's elves deliver the presents is so clever and so unique that I'm actually pretty envious. I'm a big fan of comedy, especially written comedy, and I do a lot of comedic writing myself. So seeing how fast everything goes really makes me wish I could achieve that with a lot of my writing. Then you get those jokes where you just can't explain it, but you just have to laugh at it. Like the main character, Arthur, being able to sing Silent Night in reverse perfectly. You just don't know what to say about that, but you just have to at least chuckle or admire it. It's very much a British comedy made for the family. Thankfully, at the center of this comedy is a group of colorful characters. There's Arthur, of course, but there's also three Santa Clauses. The current one, Santa the 20th, played by Jim Broadbent, the previous Santa, who's the current one's father, and the soon-to-be one, Steve, played by Hugh Laurie. As you'll notice while watching, each of them represents a different time, the past, present, and future. Grand Santa still believes that the old traditions work better than technology because modern technology has some glitches and bugs that can't be overlooked, but updates and improvements are needed as time goes on. The current Santa also is just glad to see Christmas be a success, not really having the time for some things because he's become so tired and old. And even he doesn't quite know how to handle certain situations, and hell, he actually has a few selfish moments every once in a while. Steve, meanwhile, is a character who could have so easily been a bad guy. We've seen all these types of movies before where there's a clear moral about how people with modern technology can be pinned as the villains, and there's always some environmental or nature message, but they do write him in a way where he has to be the next in line to be Santa. Even Arthur, who's shown to be the main heart of the film, isn't always the voice of reason because he's a screw up. He doesn't know how to do things half the time, and his faith really does have to be tested sometimes. It's a great clash between these four characters because there's a nice message about not only what it means to keep the holiday tradition going, but also how this three-way battle between past, present, and future is always going to be relevant. I like how it says that there are pros and cons to all three, and that all of them need to be utilized in order to get some things done. Sure, it's a movie with a ton of technology and futuristically advanced gadgets and gizmos, but the type of message feels very similar to a Miyazaki movie where you can read into how much the creator appreciates technology, but also how much they want nature to become an important part of everything. With that said, yeah, there are a few things holding me back from saying it's perfect. Firstly, I really hate to crap on this aspect, but the animation, while it's clearly trying above and beyond to be fast and creative, sometimes looks pretty bad. Now, the main characters look okay, but some of the elves look kind of odd. The humans look like they're from a Puffs commercial. And when they're in Africa, the animals look like they belong in a Norm of the North sequel. I don't like how they look. Also, for all the jokes that don't work, some jokes are kind of weak. I give credit that when a joke doesn't work, they move on from it quickly, but there's an occasional joke that does miss. I also think there's an action scene near the end that feels a touch not needed. I mean, I know what they're trying to do, but I feel like they didn't need to go this far. I mean, this really wasn't an action series. And even the action scenes before this were more comedic. This one is trying to be more serious. Lastly, there's a scene that is the only part where I feel a little bored, and that's when they mope and dope for a few minutes. And yeah, I guess when you watch this scene, you'll realize what I'm talking about. I mean, I guess it's logical that they would do this, but I've just seen this in a ton of other family movies. Really, though, these are just nitpicks because I mean it when I say that this is up there with one of the greatest Christmas classics. I'm actually going to stop using ratings because I feel like it's getting repetitive, but I do want to highly recommend this movie. And I want to recommend other movies whenever I feel like I should recommend them. I know that's weird, but either way, I still like this movie a lot. Either way, thanks for watching. Till then, everyone.